So that's a beautiful thing. Now, David, do babies go to heaven? Now, this question comes up. This is back over in chapter 12 of 2 Samuel 12. And basically, the child dies, okay? After 7 days, the child dies. Do babies go to heaven? Chapter 12, verse 23. But now that he is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me. Now, does that mean David's saying, basically, the child is dead, that David's going to die? And he said, I'll go to be with him. Now, the question is, what does the Bible say about infants that die? Is there anywhere in the Bible where it says babies go to heaven? Yeah.
It doesn't. Well, not that I know of, but I remember a passage that just came to my mind is if he who doesn't become like a child won't enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell you, I mean, baby, it doesn't, I mean, but it says that children have faith, right?
Yeah.
And so you need to become as a child rather than as a sophisticated adult and things. I think the point there is faith, a childlike faith. Yeah.
Their angels always in my face in heaven. I don't know.
Yeah, their angels are in heaven, but do the good kids and the bad kids both have angels in heaven? Okay, are we scrapping? Let me just be flat out. Is there nowhere in the Bible, and I've read the Bible a few times from cover to cover, is that there's nowhere in the Bible that says about what happens to babies. Nowhere. It doesn't exist in Scripture. By the way, this is now question. Back in David's time, would this be a really important question? Did they lose a lot of babies back then? Yeah. Do we lose babies now? Once upon a time, I had 3 kids. And my wife got pregnant with a 4th kid. We were not ready. We were not ready financially or any other way, emotionally, because we had 3 young kids, and we were just like, we didn't know whether we could handle this. It was probably several weeks to try to get up, because when we told the other kids, do we want to be really gung-ho? And so we want to get up for that and stuff, and so we just took, and finally we got up for it, and we're ready to tell the kids that they're going to have a little baby brother or sister, and we're up for it, and it's okay, this is good now. And I went into the bathroom, and the bathroom looked like a slasher movie. There was blood everywhere, covered everywhere. My wife was in a white gown. It was totally red. I picked her up. I ran down to the car. I don't think I've ever driven that fast in all my life. I just hit the gas pedal, man, and we were to the hospital. And I went into the hospital, and I get into the hospital. I'm covered, obviously it's all over me too. I'm sitting in this emergency room. And all of a sudden, over the loudspeaker, she was like white as a ghost, man. It was really scary. And it comes out, vital signs unstable, vital signs unstable. Now, see, I took Latin, so vital means like, vital is the word like life and stuff. Like vital signs unstable. That means like, holy cow, is she going to die? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know somebody could lose that much blood that fast. Honestly, I never. And so, what happened? God spared her, and they pumped a whole bunch of blood in her and things. And anyways, long story with that, what happened and things like that. But what I'm saying is it really important to me about what happens to infants? And I've often thought, sometime I get up in heaven and stuff, some kid's going to bop up and say, hey, old man, I've been waiting for you. What took you so long? And that was a joke, but anyways, not really. So what happened? What happens to infants like that and things? Now I'm going to walk over here and just let me give another, okay, I'll stay here. I want to just give another aspect of this. And this is totally conjectural on my part. Let me hit the button a few times to get down through this. Some people argue like this. All humans are sinful through Adam's sin. Adam's sin comes down on us. From Adam, the sin comes on all mankind. Romans chapter 5, those kind of things. Babies are human. So all humans receive from Adam's sins. Babies are human, and therefore babies are sinners. Babies are sinners. And what happens with sinners? Well, if you're in Massachusetts, nothing, because everybody goes to heaven in Massachusetts. But other places in Scripture, it says basically the wages of sin is death, okay? And things go bad. So all sinners must face the penalty of eternal punishment unless they believe. But a baby, I don't know, how did a baby believe, and things. Baby doesn't, you can't even talk to a baby. A baby can't understand what you're saying. So therefore, using this line of argumentation, certain people will conclude that what happens to infants. Using this line of argumentation, would be that infants don't make it, that infants die, they never accept Jesus and stuff, and so they don't make it. Now, that's the way some people argue. Now, I want to argue a different way, and I want to do it this way. In Isaiah chapter 7, verse 15, now remember how we said there's nowhere in Scripture where it says that babies make it and things. But in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 15, it says this. And this is a fairly famous passage. It says this. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. A virgin will be with child. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? A virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and you will call him Emmanuel. Sounds like what? Virgin will give birth to a child. Jesus, right? This is quoted in the New Testament for Jesus. He will eat curds and honey. He will eat curds and honey when he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right. So is this trying to say that when a child gets to a certain point eating curds and honey, that the child will recognize what's right and wrong? Some folks use this then to say there's an age of accountability. That before that point, the baby doesn't know whether the baby's sinning or not. The baby's a baby. But at a certain point, by the way, would that point differ from, God say all 2-year-olds are at that point that they know this. The babies really differ. Some kids know right and wrong earlier, others later and stuff. Some people will have to wait till they're 15 or 16. But anyway, until they get that awareness kind of thing. Yes, Hannah?
What about David said, surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the day my mother conceived me?
Right, yeah.
God's mercy is extended to people. I can see that he would extend that mercy to the babies, but I would see that they deserve it or that they're innocent until they know.
Yeah. Now the question is, when David says I was sinful from the time my mother conceived me, is that poetic language? Is that hyperbole? And so what I'm saying is, I don't want to push that poetry into being a doctrinal statement necessarily. So I think you got to be careful with doing that. But it may be. You may be exactly right. But I'm just saying be careful because it's poetry. And it may be a hyperbolic kind of statement that he's freaking. Another verse that's been helpful to me is this other one over in Genesis 18:25. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? Will not the judge of all the earth do right? Who ultimately makes the calls? God makes the calls, and God's going to do what's right. So I may not know. But the question comes up then. Why doesn't God tell us? Why doesn't God tell us what happens to infants? That is a really important question to me. And frankly, to David, it would have been a very, very important question. And so I'm going to make up a reason, okay? Now, I'm going to stay here, but I'm telling you that what I'm saying is, am I making this up? I'm making this up. The Bible doesn't tell us this. Suppose God said all infants before the age of 2 are innocent and therefore automatically go to heaven. And God said that in the Bible. All infants, before they know right and wrong, age of 2, they go to heaven. What would people do? Yeah. Would people kill babies? By the way, have many cultures killed babies anyway? And now they would have rationale for doing that. Would Christians kill babies? If they knew that all babies before the age of 2 were going to heaven, would Christians kill babies? Would they go into Islamic countries? I think we call it the Crusades, okay, or something like that. Would Christian people kill infants then? And by the way, abortion clinics would be what? Mass evangelism, right?
Well, there'd be nobody left.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That it would give approval to the abortion clinics because then all the abortion clinics, they're sending these babies to heaven. So what I'm suggesting is that God didn't tell us exactly what happens to babies because he doesn't want us to do this kind of stuff. And he knows that we are corrupt and we would probably do that kind of stuff. Now question, do I have a clue why God knows why God did that? I don't have a clue. I've made that up, okay? And I just want to be honest with you. Does it make sense a little bit? It makes sense to me. But anyways, but I want to be very careful. You're dealing with God. God knows why he does those things. But that's helped me sometimes. That God could God have told us? Could God have told us? He could have told us. But he's chosen not to. And I wonder whether because human heart is so corrupt, he knew that we would be killing infants. Okay. Does that make sense? But, big question marks there. Hildebrandt just made that up kind of thing. Okay.